NASM's personal training school.
We know that virtual coaching has become more competitive than ever. NASM's got you covered with our virtual coaching course. NASM's virtual coaching course provides a complete solution to help you translate your services into a successful virtual platform. This course will give you the tools to build and operate a sustainable virtual business model. The formats may be different, but you're still delivering fitness training and effective behavioral coaching. That doesn't change even if you can't be in the same physical space as your clients. The truth is, this is the way to reach more clients and expand your reach and impact. There's never been a better time to carve out your very own virtual space, and NASM is here to help. Welcome to NASM's virtual coaching.
You are listening to the NASM CPT podcast with Rick Richey, the official podcast of the National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Welcome, everybody, to the NASM CPT podcast. My name is Rick Richey. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate all of you. I've gotten a lot of messages on Instagram lately and a few emails, and I provide that at the end of every show. And some of you are taking me up on it, and you're reaching out to me. You're asking questions. You're just saying hey and letting me know you appreciate the podcast, and those mean so much to me. So thank you so much for sending those over. I appreciate them. All right, now we're going to get to the nerdy stuff. We're going to get to the learning stuff, and we're going to do that with my friend and my colleague, Mark Spreizer. What's going on, Mark? How you doing?
Hey, Rick. Good to see you. Thanks for having me today.
Hey, I know we did a sneak attack on you, though, because you were not expecting a webcast. You were just thinking podcast.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, down here in Florida, too, we just had some bad storms, so I'm actually home. So I'm not in my professional environment today for the podcast, but I'm happy to be here nonetheless.
Well, you found out really late that it was a webcast. I mean, like 15 minutes ago, and your room looks immaculate.
Thank
so
you.
Congratulations on just being a clean person in general. Hey, man, I want to know a little bit about your school. So for those of you who are watching and listening, Mark owns a personal training school and continuing education school, I guess. Like, he provides continuing education out of the place as well. It's called Edu-Fit. Is that right, Mark?
That's correct. Yep. It's called
Tell us more.
Sure. Yeah. I started Edu-Fit up about 7 years ago. And basically what we do is we provide test prep and continuing education for personal trainers here in South Florida. And we base all of our curriculum on NASM. I'm also a master instructor like you, Mr. Rick, with NASM. So I obviously love the content and feel very strongly about it. So that's, where I steer all my educational programs through. So we have a couple different courses. Our main course is the NASM CPT prep course, which prepares people for the actual CPT itself. But I also do some continuing education as far as the corrective exercise material goes, and as well as CPR as well, because we all know we need CPR as a current trainer too. So I do that as well.
Nice. Do you do the AED with that?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That's kind of the requirement now, right?
Yep. Gotta have that. But
for sure.
Yeah, we do it through the American Heart Association, so we follow their
great company. I just got mine renewed through them, so I could renew my NASM CPT. I got an email the other day going, "Hey, you're expired, man. You better get onto those continuing education credits." I was like, "I have them. Thanks for letting me know. I turned them in recently, and so my certification remains. Thank goodness." Mark, tell us a little bit about your education background, and then what made you decide to open a school for personal trainers.
For sure. Well, probably like many people in the fitness industry, my original education was not in fitness, was not in exercise science. So I, have a bachelor's degree in geology. So I did that for a few years, but didn't take me very long to figure out that I didn't really love rocks and dirt and groundwater. So I stumbled into fitness as I was looking, for a new career. Eventually settled on personal training and really grew to love it. And then, decided to get my formal education in exercise science. So I have a master's degree from California University, Pennsylvania, in exercise science and health promotion. Plus a lot of other continuing education workshops and other things that I've done. As a personal trainer, this we're talking like 20 years ago, before the internet, before a lot of the amazing online resources that we have now. The way my education was almost 20 years ago when I first got my personal training certification was, getting the book, having it delivered to the house, reading it yourself, figuring out what's important, what's not, and going to a local college to take the test and sit in a room and wait 3 weeks to get your results.
Right.
The golden days of certifications. When I got my start in my career, it was basically a throw you in with the sharks and learn how to swim. There was very little mentorship. There was very little help that I got. I was pretty much on my own, working at a large health club, which, don't get me wrong, it was a great experience, but it was a pretty stressful, learning experience where I made a lot of mistakes early on. As my career progressed, I was very busy personal training, but the opportunity arose to actually teach at a local career college down here in Miami, as part of a new program starting up. And I actually started doing that part-time while still training people. And in that process, I really grew to love, grew to love teaching, grew to love education. And, that's where I actually was exposed to NASM and NASM's methodologies and got their certification and all that. But basically, I really saw an opportunity to provide what I was missing, in my own career, and to really create some kind of a learning experience where people can not only, get great information, but also get that mentorship and teach how to, not to make those mistakes that I made and give direction on where to go after getting your certification, all those things that basically probably you and I had to figure out a lot on our own when we first got started.
I think that's one of the cornerstones of entrepreneurship is you fill a hole in the market. You find something that, that's what I've done on several businesses. You find something that you wish you had available at one point in your life, at this point in your life. I wish these things were available to me. And then you go, well, they can be. I can create it, but I can also market that and create that for others. And we know personal training is growing, but to just be delivered the textbook. And now NASM's got some amazing online resources that can support through the eTeach or their online education program. But there's something about being face-to-face with somebody. And I know this because you and I both went through our higher education virtually. We did a distance learning. My dad goes, when I was in college, they called them correspondence courses. So we did these online classes. Now, the cool thing about doing my education online is that it was an immediate application. I could go to the gym and do that stuff. I learned it and then I did it. But for a lot of people, they're not personal trainers yet.
Right.
So they can't listen and learn that stuff and go try it unless they're doing it in their own workouts. But there's a difference between working out yourself and working out other people and developing a program based on their needs, their goals, their wants, their desires, their assessments. And so what is your process like with that?
Right. So yeah, you nailed it, because, I think that's a big shock that people get when they get into, when they decide that they want to be a personal trainer and they realize they have the experience training themselves and the love of working out and the love of, helping people. But when the rubber hits the road and you start actually having to, have another person in front of you who you don't know anything about, you don't know what they can do, what they are feeling when you're training them, it can be quite nerve-wracking in the beginning. So that's a huge part that, online education and resources have come a really long way since we've even gotten our degrees, online, and they're getting better every year. But there's something about that live component that, I don't know if online education is ever going to be able to fulfill. And that part is so key as a personal trainer, because it is such a hands-on job. It is such a multifaceted, career, where it's not just about understanding the technical textbook material about program design and an overhead squat assessment and picking the right exercises, but it's how you deliver that stuff live to another human being, and how you deliver that personal training experience that people expect and should get from a professional trainer. So I really try to focus in on that as much as possible in my courses. There's a lot of one-on-one training and coaching that go on during the classes. I spend a lot of time talking about that psychological connection and the aspect of behavioral change and coaching that you need to incorporate into your sessions, so that the client has that full experience and sees the value of having you as their coach, having you as their mentor, as opposed to just tuning into YouTube or Facebook and downloading some videos and following along with the videos. So it's such an important part. It's probably the hardest part to teach. The technical stuff is, it's objective, it's there, it's do this, but the people skills, the soft skills, the communication is really, it can be challenging, and that's the good stuff, really. That's the stuff that's going to really hook people and keep them with you as clients for years and years and years.
That's really, it's really amazing to hear you talk about this. And for me, we were having a conversation earlier before we actually went live, which is that we've been talking about mentorship a lot, and NASM is working on developing a mentorship program. And I did a session at Optima on mentorship before I even knew that NASM was working on building something out. I feel like there's a missing component in a lot of people's lives. Like, I can take the test and I am now a certified personal trainer, but we are thrown out to the sharks, we're saying, hey man, there's a lot of people out here training. Good luck with it. Go clean up some weights, go clean up some equipment, talk to people, hand them a towel, offer them water, whatever it is, just talk to them and sell them sessions. And, it's not strategy, really. it's not strategy. And there are components of that makes it strategic, but how do I learn that from somebody that does it? How do I work with somebody that does these things? And you and what you're doing, yes, it's a school, but it's like a mentorship. And there are a lot of people who don't have the opportunity to reach out to somebody to guide them and to direct them. Right. And so I think what you're doing is really cool. And we were on a call together the other day, and when I saw you, it just was like a flood of things that went through my head. And I went, man, Mark is like the guy I want to talk to right now. So thank you for being on the show. You're the guy I want to talk to right now, because it's what you do is so in line with the direction that I like to see the industry go more, where people are more connected with a mentor and people are getting more formal education. And it's not formal education like a degree program at a university. However, it's still a formal education. Right. Otherwise, we're left to ourselves. And what I did for the first 4 or 5 years of my career, which is read the book, try to figure it out. Read the book, try to figure it out, maybe ask a trainer. That trainer usually goes, you already passed the test, don't worry about it. I was like, what? Where are we right now? Why can't we want to be better at this? And there's been a beautiful shift in that. So that's why I think what you do is so important.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, hopefully, it just keeps getting more and more, more programs like mine are popping up throughout the country. And I'm always happy to see that, because, we really need it as an industry. There is there's still a big rift between, having that technical knowledge and then also having that business sense and those coaching skills that will make somebody go from, a certified trainer to a successful certified personal trainer. So hopefully the trend continues, and people do understand that, it's not just about getting certified, and that's getting out there now finally. I still, from time to time, I still come across people who think that, I just need the certification so I can work. Right. But having that piece of paper is not a ticket to people coming with their credit cards to sign up with you just like that. So you do need to bridge that gap, and having a mentor is so important, because fitness is such a personality driven industry. And if you're on your own little island, you never learn how to communicate or how to even show your personality to strangers. I mean, you think about what maybe somebody is doing in their current job. You sort of have maybe working in an office or doing your thing there, and then they become a personal trainer, and now you're expected to all day long go up and talk to strangers, initiate conversations with strangers. Like, no, people don't do that in their normal daily lives. That needs to be learned. That roadblock, that the nervousness and the self-consciousness that, I had when I first started, and I'm sure you did too. You have to overcome that. You have to have someone mentoring you and coaching you to say, no, stick with it. Get out there, talk to 5 people today, and just talk to 5 people today. You don't even need to sign up for personal training, but just get out there, get over the hump, and get comfortable with it, and go step by step. And that is one of the biggest keys to success that I try to tell my students, is that, it's more about the personality. It's more about you than it is really about what you know.
Yeah, I have a conference session, like that I've done a couple of times at conferences, and it's really about adult education. It's about andragogy and how adults learn, and how they seek learning and accept learning. And when I started studying adult education, I was like, this is like a sales manual without selling anything. You find out what people want to learn, what are their interests, what do they like. It really turned around quite well. And I had one of the guys who was a senior sales guy at Crunch, and he said, I've been in the industry for 20 years, and your session on adult education is the best sales session I've ever sat through. And the reason it was that is because selling's not about selling, right? Selling isn't about ABC, always be closing. It's about developing that relationship and providing people information that they want to have. And if you can be a provider of that information, then people will come to you. And when they come to you, that's when the sale happens. But the other thing about sales too is it's not your decision to make as the trainer whether or not somebody buys. So if you think, oh man, I'm charging way too much, but this is what the gym charges, that's not your decision to make. Just because you wouldn't buy it doesn't mean they won't. Right. So your only job is to do the best job you can do. Provide the best service, provide the best experience, provide something that's going to be outcomes and results driven, but still takes into account all the things that people want, all their goals, learning to manage expectations, to meet people where they are, and don't hurt people. And then once you can do that, then the sales cycle just keeps happening. And that's one of the nice things about personal training, is that even a lot of times when people are like, I just want to buy a 10-pack, they often come back for more, just because the experience they have is so strong.
Yeah, and also, they're all the other nice thing about selling personal training is that it's not like going to a car dealership where, you're going in looking for a car, and that salesperson probably knows he only has that half hour or whatever he's with you to get you to buy that car, and then you're going to go someplace else. Mm-hmm. If you're working in a health club or a big box gym, you're going to see these people day after day, week after week, month after month, and in that way it becomes easier because you focus more on building relationships, and you become the face of the gym. You become the face of fitness, where you don't need to sell, right? You just need to talk to people. You just need to help people. And then sooner or later, depending on where in that pipeline that person is and deciding to eventually hire a trainer, you'll have somebody signing up this week, but then you'll have someone that you've been talking to for a couple months signing up 3 months later. When I was working in gyms like that, I would have people come years later and finally say, hey, you know what? It's January. I haven't been able to do this on my own. I'm getting real, and I want to hire you for a while. So it's a different experience. I hate that sales word. It just puts so much pressure and puts so much. It's a negative connotation for so many people. And if I wish that new trainers, if they could just look at it from a point of getting outside of yourself, going to help, getting to meet people, getting to understand people, getting to help people, and teach them what and show them how you can help them. The process is a lot smoother. There isn't.
That's true. As a matter of fact, when I was still working at a corporate gym, I ended up getting more clients, more people coming up and talking to me when I was working out. So they allowed us certain times in the day where we could work out. And I think that they just felt more comfortable because I was dressed like them. I wasn't walking around with a clipboard. I didn't have a name tag hanging on my neck. It's nice to be able to see that so you know who works there. But for a lot of people, it's like, I don't want to talk to that person because as soon as I say something, they're going to be like, oh, did you want to buy something? Can I sell you something? Mm-hmm. But when I'm just working out and somebody says, hey, I got a question for you, they don't feel, because I'm not wearing the shirt, they don't feel that I'm going to pitch them anything. And I didn't. And so many people just from me working out come up, start a conversation that I never spoke with that person before. They just saw me a lot at the gym. And it broke down some of those barriers that people have, and they didn't feel like they're going to be pitched something. So I think that helped a lot. I don't know if that's a great sales technique, but it was something that made me more like them. It made me more relatable to them. Right. And from that relatableness with me working out, they're working out, dressed the same. Mm-hmm. They just didn't feel like they're going to be pitched. And certainly they weren't. It's like, all right, well, let me give you a spot. Let me know what I can do for you. Let me, whatever questions you have. All right, cool. Now let me put my headphones back in and get to my workout.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it gives them a chance to see your personality too. When you put on that training shirt that says personal trainer on the back, you're working, right? You're assuming the role for that company that you're in or that gym that you're in. When you're in gym clothes and you got your earbuds in and you're working out, you're just Rick, right? I'm just Mark, and we can just talk and have a conversation, and that frame of reference has switched, and it really lets people bring their guard down and listen too, because we've all been at the store and looking for something, and a salesperson comes up and says, hey, can I help you? And automatically your guard goes up, right? Even if you need help, even if you don't know what you're doing, right, you're still going to pretend like you do, right, and not want to talk with them. So yeah, that's a great technique. I would say, in the beginning, that's a fantastic technique to use. I know though I remember when I was training full time and I was super busy and spending 8-10 hours in the gym, I wouldn't want to work out in the gym anymore at that point. I would want to get away and have my own time and not be not be approached by members all the time and have my space as far as that goes. But for sure that worked.
Well, definitely when I was not training as many people, but I was working out more, it allowed me that time to be like, oh, nice little sales technique. I'm going to go work out again today because maybe I'll get somebody else.
Right.
I want to ask more questions about your business, about the school. Mm-hmm. And is there some kind of academic partnership or relationship somehow with NASM? What does that look like? What do they provide for you? Give me some information on that relationship.
Yeah. I mean, NASM's been really great. They have a great program for academic providers. If you do want to do something like what I do, there is a contract relationship that I have with NASM, and they provide the instructional materials and allow me to basically package everything from their end into whatever I'm going to do on my end. So, I'll package my live classes, I'll package whatever mentorship or other materials that I'm going to package with my educational programs. And I can basically, have free use of their textbook or the certification of the online resources and all that goes. They also, I do get some help from their website. Also, there is an academic provider section of the website, so I do get leads from that occasionally for people who are off the bat looking for some kind of a live component. So that can be helpful as well. And plus, the other thing that's proven to be really beneficial for me and my students is I do get sort of preferred access to their customer service and member services to resolve any kinds of issues that are popping up, like, they have a name change or the certification went to the wrong address. Can we get that fixed and get a new one sent out? Like, I have really great access to the inner workings of the organization to get stuff fixed and expedited much better than somebody who's doing it on their own.
Do you ever have any personal trainer, like any trainers that are already certified that come to school just to be like, I just want to know this better?
Yeah. I just had a student who was in a workshop that I taught for NASM in Fort Lauderdale. She was already certified, and she came back and took my live classes. She didn't need the certification and the book and all that because she had it, but she came back and sat in on the live classes as a refresher, nice. 3 or 4 years later after I met her at the workshop. So yeah, I do get people who are already training. I get a lot of students from Orange Theory who are already working at Orange Theory and they want the certification, or maybe, their job's requiring them to get a different certification. Maybe they got one that's probably, maybe not nationally recognized, and they want something that's got a little bit more of a name to it. So I do get people like that. I get a lot of students who purchase, kind of getting back to our conversation from before, who purchase the materials on their own. Maybe they get a self-study program from NASM directly, and then realize, man, I really need some help with this. I need some help digesting this and applying this and getting through like chapter 2 of the textbook, which is, the biggest roadblock in the whole curriculum there, just getting through all that material first. So I get a lot of people who bought a package by themselves and are not just making the progress that they want and need some help.
I don't know what your experience was like when you first opened up a personal training textbook, when I got my first one in the mail. And I thought, man, personal training is going to be easy, right? So I get my I get the textbook, and I was like, this is a real textbook. Yeah. This is a real book with a lot of information. And I thought it was just going to be support.
Is this a doctor's? Is this for a doctor or is this for a personal trainer? Yep.
I thought we had just like support on how to count to 10 and 15, like if in case you needed it, here's how to count this high. And you open it up and you're like, what? There's a sarcomere? What? Actin and myosin, cross bridges, acetylcholine, right? Wow. It just got real deep real fast. Yeah. And I can understand how some people crack that book open and go, no, let me find some help.
Sure. And, you need that person, or you need someone to help you and say, look, this stuff it's important, it's interesting, but you're not going to be talking about this to your client during their training session, right?
Correct.
So understand it, know what it is, but move on. Let's, don't let that hang you up. And I always try to, I throw disclaimers out there all the time with the material that I'm teaching, that like, let's learn this now. Let's understand the basics of it. But, you're not going to be talking to your clients about sarcomeres most likely, or actin and myosin, unless of course they ask for it. But, most people, you're not going to go down that road. So don't get hung up on it so much, right?
Right. I mean, same thing goes with the muscles. I know so many trainers, and sometimes they just speak in anatomical talk, and we're
Yeah.
going to work this muscle and this muscle. And a lot of times, you, your clients don't know what you're saying. They
Right.
just can't interpret that. Now, some clients love that.
Hmm.
And they, whether or not they know what you're talking about, they love that you know it. They like to know that you're saying those
Right.
things because it makes them feel comfortable and confident that you are the type of trainer who knows those things. And so you're probably delivering a good program, you're
Hmm.
experienced in what you're doing. But it's, a lot of times it's really not about knowing the names of the muscles or all of it. Like, people have been good trainers in the past without knowing that information.
Right.
But what made them really good is that even before kind of the science really came out and became part of the personal training protocol, it was how they developed the program. What programs were they implementing that allowed people to get bigger, faster, stronger? And you can still do that. So that's why programming's so important. And I tell people, the assessment is gives you a gateway to a better warm up, a better preparation, and a better program. So I can do a program based on the information I get from you. But a lot of times, personal trainers will take that information and simply use it as a sales technique.
Hmm.
So, and what I mean by that is that they'll get people in, they'll do an overhead squat assessment, and they'll do all of these wonderful assessments. They'll say, well, let's get in the bridge position, let's check this out, let's do this kind of, core stabilization, check, 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 go through all this stuff. And then when it's all said and done, they're like, all right, bench. Let's go
train like a
press.
bodybuilder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do mind
So,
work. Right.
and there's nothing wrong with, like you said, that training like a bodybuilder. And there's nothing wrong with training like a bodybuilder. And in fact, I'm looking forward to having an Olympian, a Mr. Olympian, so that's competing at the highest level of bodybuilding on this podcast in the next couple of weeks. I'm really excited about that,
Hmm.
but it's not for everybody.
Exactly. Right.
However, what I don't want people to do is say NASM doesn't know anything about bodybuilding. We have really great content for muscle hypertrophy. We have a muscle hypertrophy continuing education workshop. One of the people that was a big subject matter expert for helping to develop that, when I spoke with Brian Sutton, who's on our team, said that it was Brad Schoenfeld. And I was like, well, there's nobody who knows anything more about hypertrophy, most likely, than that man right there.
Hmm.
And he worked with us to develop our hypertrophy program. But what people do is they look at this and they go, oh, you have all of these levels, you have all of these phases. So because you have options, then when you get to the hypertrophy, that hypertrophy one's probably not that good because you do all these other things
Right.
too. And that's simply not true. What's true is that we provide so much more information and a systematic progression that really no other certifications that I know of provide. And that's what makes it valuable. You don't have to do it, but you
Right.
can, and you have programming options and they're laid out for you.
Right. And the big, one of the big, there's so many, but one of the big strengths of the OPT model is how it allows you to apply those different goals to different kinds of clients. I try to teach my students that the people that they're probably going to be meeting at the gym have a very simplistic way at looking at working out. It's very what's right in front of me. If I want bigger muscles, well, then I want to train for bigger muscles, right? I'm going to do a hypertrophy program, even though it's my first day in the gym, or I haven't lifted in 10 years, or I have all these old injuries. If I want this, then I'm going to train for that. And that makes sense on the surface, right? I'm just going to work for what I want. But what I try to get my students to understand is that, just because there is a great program for hypertrophy out there, that doesn't mean your client is ready for that program, right? So we need to do that assessment process. We need to understand, all the background information that they're telling you, but also probably find out a bunch of stuff that they don't even know about their own body, and then build a roadmap to that point, or build a roadmap to that goal. So it's, not usually as straightforward as people. Some people expect it to be anyway. Some people are very open-minded, but there are people that are very, very close-minded to training other than what their goal immediately is. But communicating that to your client and, of course, showing them results along the way is extremely important as well. But the OPT model is really such a great tool for applying all the great, probably higher level science and programming information out there, but applying it to that, that accountant who's been at his job for 15 years and, is getting older and realizes he needs to take better care of himself and to get to that point.
Yeah, for sure. What do you do to help support your trainers after they graduate, to help them, is there any support to help them find work, to get jobs, to, I mean, that's one of the big things. We're so scared to go to school because we spend so much money on school. And then when school's over, there's no guarantee for a job. Yeah. Is there support that's provided?
Yeah, for sure. So that's a big part. I mean, you got to understand, if you're going to open up a school that is a career-oriented school, you have to, help them get started in their career too, and not just help them get that certification. So I do help all students with job placement after they get certified. That's also one of the kind of carrots I hold in front, is that, you need to pass that test. You need to take that test and pass that test before I can help you. But I'm very well connected with all the gyms down here in South Florida. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years down here. So I have great connections. Many of my students are managing gyms or owning facilities. So, nice. I'm always getting phone calls from places asking, hey, do you have anybody good coming out? For January, I'm going to be busy. So I definitely help people as far as, after they get certified, but also beyond that. I've had students come back 6 months, a year down the road after working somewhere and say, you know what, it's just not working out at this place I'm at. Can you help me get started somewhere else? And I'd love to do that. I mean, that for me, that's the real satisfaction, is when I can, say that, I took this person and from not knowing anything, they have a list of clients at gym and they're happy. So that's a big part of it. I also allow students to come back for 6 months after they take the course to retake any classes that they want as well, for refreshers, or brush up on other stuff. So I have different faces bopping in my classes. People looking for refreshers if they need help again with the overhead squat assessment or programming or anything like that. So yeah, I do this because I love my students. I don't want to get them certified and then goodbye, bring me the next one. I want to keep in touch with my students, see their successes, and that really makes me happy. The reason why I got into fitness is because I like helping people, and that's usually the general theme, right? So what better way to help people than to help other people to help more people, and have that multiplier effect on it. So that's where I get my happiness from.
Man, that is awesome. All right, so a few more questions, and then I'm going to kick it over to Greg and get some feedback from some of the people who may be asking questions on our Facebook Live. My question is, how long is the program that you're offering? Maybe the CPT or whatever the main one is. Are they at nights? Are they in the daytime? How many hours per day? What's the length of everything? Talk me through that.
Sure. So the main course, the CPT course that I teach, it's an 8-week long course. So it's pretty accelerated. I mean, to get through that textbook and to get ready for that test in 8 weeks, it's serious. It's not something that you want to just do willy-nilly. But basically the way the structure goes is it's 8 weeks, and each week there is a 3-hour live class included, where they'll come to the gym, and I'll have a classroom set up there. We'll use the equipment in the gym, and we're there for basically 3 hours. And we're, going bopping back and forth between classroom presentations with PowerPoints, all nice and organized, and getting out onto the gym floor and practicing what we just learned about. So that's pretty much the format. There's online resources that are included. Those are coming directly from NASM, the textbook, all the support materials are included in that. So at the end of those 8 weeks, usually students take a week to a month to study up, and then they're ready to take that test.
Man, that's pretty cool. I wish I had that when I first started, man. I really do.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to kick it over to Greg. Greg, if we've got anybody interested in what's going on, maybe if there are questions that are rising up about what can schools and opportunities like this look like, let us know.
Yeah, we actually do. We have Peter in the chat. He wants to know, do you believe that by driving and pushing mentorship and using an apprenticeship approach in our industry, we could elevate the title of personal trainer to a higher standard?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Mark handle that, but I 100% do.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, to have a system where you can generate truly qualified candidates who don't maybe just have that piece of paper from the certification, but still don't have that application knowledge or the skills there. I mean, that would be tremendous. I mean, that's one of my core reasons for starting Edu-Fit, is to help elevate personal training as a career in general. You still mention personal training to somebody, and depending who you're talking to, somebody's going to have a really positive idea of a personal trainer, and other people are going to have a much more less positive idea, let's say. So for sure, I mean, that I would love to see that. I would love to see that standardized throughout the industry, just like you do in many other careers. So that would be great.
Man, that's awesome. That's a great question, Peter, and I'm with Mark on that. I think that the book knowledge is good and it's good to have, but unless you can turn that book knowledge into an application, then you're just a smart trainer that may not know how to train very well. Mm-hmm. The mentors are the ones that have developed this programming, have worked together with clients, have built relationships, have taught people, have learned it themselves, have applied it themselves. And now they're teaching it to an individual, to a person that says, I want you to be able to do what I'm doing. And this, I think, will really change the industry in a significant way when we start to latch on to mentors. And at high levels, people have mentors already, right? I had a mentor. I've got college professors that mentored me through stuff that I still reach out to if I've got questions about things. I bounce things off of people. And then I've got colleagues, but I've got colleagues at a really high level that I can bounce things off of. So the mentorship for me at this point is not as valuable. So what that means to me is that for me, it's more valuable to be the mentor, to be the person, because I've been through the studies, I've been through the applications, I've built and developed my own personal training businesses and been successful at those. Mm-hmm. How do I share that with somebody else that wants that? And then there are people out there who should want that. They should want to know what somebody really successful has done, and not just have a manager at a gym who's not going to be your mentor for the most part. Many managers at the gym are not the mentors. They are just trying to run a business. This is about developing incredible success and having drive for that one individual or that group of individuals that you're mentoring. The outcome isn't, did you hit your numbers this month? That's not the outcome. Right. The outcome is the development, the application, the presentation of all of these things that we've worked on. And when you stop focusing on the sales, which is what most managers do at many gyms, and you can focus on delivering the experience, then the sales come. So the sales can clearly be an indication of the mentorship, but at no point is that really going to be an ABC approach, always be closing, because when you've got that approach, then you're not developing the skills that you need to provide people with what they want. You're just trying to provide yourself with what you want, which is a sale. So Peter, I think it's a great question. Appreciate it. Greg, what else you got, man?
Yeah, a couple people in the chat wanted a little bit of clarification. Mark, is your program available online? And then if it is, or if it's not, for those in Florida, can they join even if they have their CPT already in their specializations?
Yeah, great question. So yes, people can take the course if they have their CPT already. As far as the delivery of it, the main aspect of my course does have the hands-on component, and right now I don't have the potential to do that virtually just yet. I'm looking into it, and might be able to pull that together. But for now, the full course is only for people locally who want to travel to sit in on those classes. I do offer an online exam prep workshop, but it's a half-day workshop. It's not the complete course, and it's really geared more towards getting people to pass the test. But I am looking into that virtual component, because especially nowadays with the pandemic and everything, people are looking for that a little bit more interested in the distance learning aspect.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's really great questions to ask. I'd love to drive some people that are down in South Florida towards your program, because I know you. I've known you for a long time. You've been an educator with NASM for many years. I think I was there when you came on board, and was contributing to. Yeah. Oh, thanks. That feels so good. So I'd love to get some people down in South Florida that may be interested. And then, of course, if you're in New York City, reach out to me if you've got questions about that. Greg, any more questions?
Yeah, with the ABC approach that you've discussed, is there a free Cadillac and free steak knives that go along with that? Or sorry, I have,
a lot of times.
Had to make the Glenn Ross joke.
That's what that's from. Yes. Little David Mamet never hurt anybody unless you're offended by the language. But there are a lot of people with the ABC that oftentimes throw in free stuff, and I gotta be honest. I'm not a free stuff kind of trainer. And before, when I was a new trainer, I definitely was like, oh, listen, it's a 10-pack, but I'll give you 11 and we'll do it on the sly, because I just really need you to buy. And that's long shifted in my development, because this is the value of the session. And I don't do a lot. I don't do any freebies. If somebody misses a session, I might give that to them. I might charge them. It depends. Sometimes, because especially when my kids were younger, if a client canceled on me, I knew at some point I was going to cancel on them, because I'd have some kid stuff. So I wouldn't charge them the 24-hour charge, because I'd be like, all right, that's one for you. I get one. Right. But if you miss another one before I have to miss one, you owe me for that one. All right. So anyway, there's that's a good question, actually, though, is, what do you do to increase your sales? And are you offering free stuff, and are you offering discounts? And I don't have a problem with people doing that necessarily. But it does go against the grain as we develop who we are as fitness professionals. What I also do is I charge what I charge as a personal trainer, which is relatively high, because I have other things that I do. And so if that takes me away from focusing on an education program or working on content or developing my businesses, then people have to pay me a lot in order for me to train them, because it's valuable to them. And at that point, it's valuable to me. But as my friend and business partner, Aaron Drogozeski, said, I charge what I charge. with some clients so I can charge what I charge with other clients. And what he means by that is that not everybody can afford these services. And if that's the case, I can charge people high amounts, and that basically affords me the opportunity to charge somebody not nearly as much because that person needs my help. Specifically, it's not someone that can easily be given to another trainer because they just don't have the skill set to support somebody that has whatever back issue that person has, or they have a neck thing, or they have diabetes or heart disease or something, and I have a special ability to support people in that process, then I don't charge them as much. And so we've got to create some balance in the force. And sometimes there are pro bono things. Sometimes there are opportunities to work with people that, without charging them, it is my pleasure to give my time and to give my services to help support. I also provide my services to my kids' school. And so they get sold at auction. And so there's a 5-pack of personal training sessions, or as a massage therapist, there's a 5-pack of orthopedic massages that you can do, or you buy one-offs, and they pay for it. And that donation goes to the school. So people donate their money to the school. I basically donate my time to the school, and the school benefits. The people who make the purchase benefit. I benefit because my kid's school is receiving that money. So there are a lot of layers to it. And I think that working with community and providing services, this ABC, the always be closing, it's an approach, but I want people that are really good at selling and really good at training. And I don't want the sales to take away from the training. And I don't want the training for you to be not so good of a trainer that you have to continually sell. The great thing for us is so many times once we get clients, we can ride that wave. I know that sounds kind of belittling, and I don't want it to sound that way. We can ride that wave. We've developed a relationship with people, and we work with people, and we connect with people, and they love what we do for them. And we don't do it for free, but we do it because we love it. And sometimes personal training is not an easy job. It's a fun job. It's a cool job, but still a job. Kind of like, Mark, what you were talking about before, when you said you were training 10 hours a day, the last thing you wanted to do was go work out in the gym. You just want to leave the gym, and you can get burnt out by doing a job you love. You can find a way to hate things that are awesome. And there has to be balance in the force. And there wasn't balance for me early on. If there was a client that I could have, I would take them. And I was working early in the morning, working late at night, working hours all in between. I would pick up sessions on the weekend, even though I didn't want to work the weekend. And now for me, I don't work the weekends. I can start at 6 a.m., but if my kids get out of school at 3, my last session might be at 1 o'clock. I'm done at 2. I can be there to pick them up at 3. I can be back home and support that process, and I can work on some other things. So not everybody has that luxury. They've not had the opportunity to build their business to make that happen. And it's a process. And so many people early on, Mark, again, what you said, you get certified, and I always make this statement when I teach these courses in Manhattan, is that people think they're going to certify, they get to walk in the middle of Times Square and go, I'm certified, and people are just going to flock to you, and you're going to have all this business.
Right.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works. People don't just give you money because you're a personal trainer. And it's a development.
And if I can just add to that briefly, remember too that you are your product, right? So you need to invest in yourself, and you need to take care of yourself, because that's what you're portraying as your product. If you get so busy with a list full of clients that you're, spending 10 hours in the gym or 8 hours in the gym, but you're starting to forego your own workouts, you're not eating well anymore, you're not sleeping well anymore, right? You're stressed out because you're trying to manage all these new clients in your life and all that. Well, that's going to take its toll on your business eventually. You might be super busy now, but you can't sustain that, and that starts to show, right? And I think probably, Rick has been there, I've been there. Most really successful trainers have been there, where you've gotten so busy and you're making a lot of money. It's great, the money is excellent, but you realize that it's not sustainable. And then a lot of times there is a crash after that, where people for whatever reason leave, and then you're burnt out, you're tired, you don't have the energy to go out and talk to meet new people, help new people, donate your time, however you're getting your clients. And you start to get an income wave as opposed to an income slope, positive slope there. So, that's something not to lose sight in, and is invest in yourself, take care of yourself. It's super duper important.
Man, I agree with that 1000%. Mark Spreizer, thank you for being on this show with me, man. I appreciate you.
Great to see you. Great to see you.
You too, man. Tell people the name of your company, where they can find you on social, email, stuff like that.
Yeah, so the name of the company is Edu-Fit. You can visit the website, www.edu- like a minus sign, fitness.com. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram as EduFit Cert, EduFit Cert, all one word.
Fantastic. Well, I follow you. So keep posting stuff, keep supporting the education of new trainers, returning trainers, people who just desire more education. People want to learn, man. People want to learn as much as, like my kids fight against school. When I teach them something that they're interested in, they can't wait to learn. Right. But if they have to do this compensatory stuff, it's not what they like. And then I got it because when I was in school, wasn't great. And then when I started studying what I wanted to study, my grades went through the roof because it was something I loved, something I was interested in, something I wanted to do. And that's what that internal motivation is. It's the self-directed learning, and anybody that goes to your program is a self-directed learner. Nobody's telling them that that's what they have to do. Right. And so I'm sure you get a lot of really motivated people that are in attendance.
Oh yeah. And remember too, that process has got to continue throughout your whole career. Your education does not stop once you get certified or once you get a list full of clients. That's part of that self-investment that I was talking about. Again, it's that education component is super important, because, there's new stuff coming out all the time now, right? It's such an exciting to be in the fitness industry, because so much is changing, and we're getting better, and we're getting, better at the behavior change aspect of it and the modification aspect. So, ride that wave. It's a great time to be in the industry. We're obviously having a little hiccup right now with the pandemic, but, that too shall pass. And we want to come out the other end of this thing just better than we were when we went in.
Amazing. You got it. # lifelong learner. Mark Spreizer, Edu-Fit, thank you so much for being here. Y'all know you can reach out to me at dr.rickrichey on Instagram's where I'm most active, but you can email me rick.richey, RICHEY, @nasm.org. Thank you so much. This has been the NASM CPT podcast.